Ladies and gentlemen, it is lightning round. Let's talk some football, guys. Gary, that was scary. Don't ever fucking do it again. Well, we're not getting monetized for this one. It took 14 seconds for me to drop that.
Now we're canceled. Now we can't put this on YouTube. Unbelievable. Start it right now.
We had a good run. That's just
3, 2, 1, go.
Canceled
again. Wow. All right. Yeah. Let's talk some week 5 football here. Kevin Tompkins, Gary Haddow, Andrew Cooper here. We're going to talk some football. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Cool.
Fantastic, man. I mean, we just put in a bunch of fab on a player I'm going to talk about later. So that's a good feeling. Hopefully we're going to get him. But how are you feeling, Gary?
Feeling great. We just put in a bunch of fab on a player I'm going to be talking about later.
And we're dropping players that I was really high on. Probably.
So everybody's happy. We're doing the right thing for the team, I would say.
That's right. You know what? One of these weeks we're going to have to do a report on the teams that we drafted on here and kind of go through them. But for now, we're going to talk a little bit of week 5, and we're going to go maybe back to the old format a little bit. So gentlemen, one player that you guys are excited to watch in week 5.
Gary, take it away.
I'll kick us off. I'm really excited to watch Jameson Crowder this week. So we have all been somewhat disappointed with
Kev, can you hear him?
I can't. You're muted.
I couldn't hear you, Gary. No.
Nope. The mainstream media did not want any part of that Jameson Crowder take.
Well, let me... why don't I talk about the guy that I'm excited to see this week, and then Gary can pick it right back up when he's back. No, we can't hear you, Gary. So the guy that I'm excited to see this week, which we might not even actually see him, or at least see him in his full capacity, but I am super intrigued by Josh Gordon. I know it hasn't been since 2013 that he's had the big season, but if you extrapolate out his games with the Patriots, he was on pace for over 1,000 yards, right? And you talk about guys that have had substance abuse issues, right? Look at Chris Carter, a dude that had serious issues, got traded from the from the Eagles to the Vikings, and then all of a sudden, at age 28, he had his first 1,000-yard season, and then he had 1,000 yards from 28 until 35, and he played till he was 37. So it's like this guy did nothing till he was 28, started pumping out 1,000-yard seasons, did it for 7 years. Why can't Josh Gordon's washed at 30 when he has no wear and tear? You look at Darren Waller, did nothing till he was 28. I mean, Adam Thielen, Wes Welker, a bunch of these guys, those guys obviously probably didn't have some substance abuse issues, but I mean, this is a guy who we've seen be explosive, and now everyone's talking about him as if he looks like a monster out there, right? Travis Kelce is saying he looks like something he's never seen before, so for me, when you talk about guys that come out of nowhere and could do something for your team, Josh Gordon is a guy that I think, how often does this come along where a monster wide receiver comes out of the blue and he's available on waivers, So that was the guy I was talking about earlier that I'm really excited to drop some fab on. I had him in a couple of dynasty leagues. I got him somewhere. I think that for him to really blow up, you need an injury to maybe Tyreek or Kelce, which doesn't really happen often, but if it does, it could be crazy. So, what do you think about Gordon?
I'm on the fence because it's undeniable the talent of Josh Gordon. 2013, the dude was a man among boys. That huge season that he had with Cleveland, but I just don't know if that he can handle a role like that, a high leverage kind of role. I think he's what you said he was 30. He's still only 30. That's pretty young. Not considering it feels like it's been 2 decades ago since he played. My concern is, he's going to need that injury. But other than that, the only thing is basically it's a roulette wheel with everybody else outside of Kelce, outside of Hill. Take your spin on Hardman, Robinson, Pringle, all these other guys. Joe Fortson, our new favorite here on Lightning Round. But Yeah, I mean, can anybody do it? Absolutely. Gordon can and has the talent to be able to capitalize with the best quarterback in football.
Right.
And he's certainly worth speculative ads. Absolutely. I just it's hard to not shake what he's done the last couple of years in trying to come back. And yeah, he's played and yeah, he's been on the field, but not being able to put stuff together, it's still kind of in the back of my mind. And that's pretty much all I can see. And that's probably more of a me thing than anything.
Right. And I just, the thing is, I think about all these people adding these like third targets on these teams, which we know historically speaking, it's very rare for a third target on a team to get 100 targets. Like the last 5 years, it's happened less than 5% of the time. 95% of teams last 5 years have had 2 or fewer guys get 100 targets, right? So you look at all these people adding like KJ Osborne or Tyler Conklin, knowing that there's 2 guys there getting 100 targets, and it's not even maybe more pass happy this year than usual, but I mean like not that kind of team, right? It's like all these guys, like all these tight ends, people like going after them. Like I look at this team where they clearly only have 2 guys, and the next guy is so far off in terms of targets that like if we're gonna go after any team's third target, why wouldn't it be this team? Like people are going after Dawson Knox as the 4th target on the Bills, like. Dalton Schultz, once everyone's healthy, is likely to be the 4th target after Amari, Gallup, and Lamb. It's like if we're going to go after a third target, why wouldn't we go after the Chiefs? So for me, especially when it's Josh Gordon, I mean, it's like the upside is high, the downside is insanely low. But I'm down to spend on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can think of worse, ways to spend your fab. I mean, look at Deontay Johnson last year and the hubbub everybody, went through to spend 70-80% of your fab when Nick Chubb went down. And then that was just one giant sinkhole for your fab. The guy I want to talk about, and it's pretty interesting looking now that we were getting some increased passing game, production and efficiency out of the Las Vegas Raiders. We all know about Darren Waller, but it's pretty interesting to look at a guy like Henry Ruggs and seeing him not just become that deep threat in that offense. Henry Ruggs could have had a touchdown late. Derek Carr did overthrow him, but in the last 2 games, he has over 130 air yards. And then he has at least 79 in each game. So they're making it a concerted effort to get him targeted deep. And he's not just a deep threat. He's playing intermediate. He's able to get short targets too. So I'm very interested in watching Henry Ruggs, and it's not just the Darren Waller show. I'm over Bryan Edwards. I think Hunter Renfro is fantastic. I mean, if you saw that play that he made on the fake punt attempt,
so good.
That was like, dude should get fantasy points for that. Like he's probably, I think I made a joke that he's outscoring Kevin King in IDP right now, just on that tackle. I mean, you certainly should be, but yeah, Henry Ruggs is really fun to watch. And, he was basically pegged as a deep threat guy and only a deep threat guy. And that certainly played true in drafts where you could get him essentially for free. And now you're seeing these 2nd-year guys. And I think we want to throw away or cast off all these 2nd-year guys that don't produce in year 1. And, Jalen Reagor and Henry Ruggs are certainly in that conversation too. And maybe to a little bit of an extent, Michael Pittman as well. Henry Ruggs might be the best, I don't know about Pittman, but as far as an all around game and the targets that you want in fantasy, Henry Ruggs could absolutely just smash the rest of the year in an increased offensive environment in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and I honestly, I thought they were lying when they were like, oh, he's not just going to be a field stretcher, but, he's played 40% of his snaps from the slot. They're moving him around all over. He's, if he doesn't lead this, it's like Waller always kind of leads them in snaps outside of the lineman and the quarterback. But I mean, if he's not leading, he's pretty much tied with Bryan Edwards. And, Renfro, I know, he's fun, right? He's a interesting guy, a fun guy, but he's just not explosive. He's not going to put up the big numbers that Ruggs is. So, I mean, Ruggs is definitely a guy that he's available in a lot of leagues. So I'm on board with that for sure. Would you think Gary's going to come back or?
Yeah, I'm getting him the code right now. Kind of killing us over here. All right, I just sent it to him, so he should be back in a second here. So I don't know if you want to. I mean, I know he was going to talk about Jameson Crowder. We put in some fab offers in our. We drafted a couple teams, higher stakes teams on FFPC and on KFFSC as well. And right now we're 2-2 in one and 3-1 in the other. We're looking pretty good right now. Here comes Gary. Gary. Oh my God, he made it.
Jameson Crowder.
Oh, we can hear him too.
Yeah, let's talk about some Jameson Crowder.
I'm here for Jameson Crowder, man.
Is your mic here? Is your microphone here for it?
It is here. Everyone's here for it. My apologies for all of that. We've been waiting for this offense. Everybody was really had high expectations. I was one of those people that thought like the Jets were this team that they could do more than we expected. And then they just came out somewhat flat. Like we see these epic throws from Zach Wilson, and yet it just felt like something was missing. We know that Elijah Moore was out. He had his concussion issue. And so it was just Corey Davis, who nobody really believes is a true one. He's much better as a 1A, 1B kind of wide receiver. And then you bring in Jameson Crowder, and I believe I said this on the Sunday show that I thought he was going to be that magic glue that was going to bring this offense together. And hey, let's temper expectations. They played the Titans, and I don't really know what that means because the Titans are so bad. But, dude, he got 9 targets, even in an overtime game, so be it. But the 7 for 61 looks solid. We know that Jameson Crowder, he is just like your pro's pro. He is just your solid vet that comes in. And, I mean, think, who else do they have? They have Keelan Cole. They have Elijah Moore. They kind of have Denzel Mims. I mean, Michael Carter, Ty Johnson, like these guys are young. They have a young offensive line. Like Jameson Crowder is a stabilizing force. I think that we are going to see him become that safety valve that rookies need. They have to have that somebody, and they don't have a tight end to speak of. What is it, Tyler Kroft? Like no. So
babyface killer. Put some respect on his name.
He blocked on 8 of 32 pass plays.
Yeah, Jameson Crowder to me is one of those guys that, especially in a deeper league or in I'm starting in a league that it's a 2-flex league. I have no problem putting him in. Maybe he won't get that touchdown, but I think he's going to always have that like medium yardage, high target floor and the touchdowns here and there because he is going to become old faithful for Zach Wilson.
I love it, man. I mean, for me, I'm more of like I need to see what it looks like with with Elijah Moore back, right? Because Corey Davis the thing about Corey Davis is they paid him to play split end because he's so big, and they're only going to use one tight end at a time. So he's going to have his foot tethered to the line. But a lot of times with guys like that, like the Brashad Perrimans and the Josh Reynolds did it forever with the Rams, where you just like tell them, go out there, play split end. They're going to jam you, and that's fine because we don't even want to throw it to you. So Corey Davis, I think he's a little better than that, obviously, but that's his role, right? So the real question is when they go 2 wide receiver sets, which a team that uses a fullback, a team that uses Trevin Wesco plays some fullback, he plays some tight end. Like, who's out there in 2 wide receiver sets? If it's Elijah Moore playing the full snaps, that's the guy I want. If it's Jameson Crowder playing those snaps, that's the guy I want. So for me, I need to see what it looks like. They might just go 3 wide all the time, which some teams do, and then you just definitely want Jameson Crowder, right?
Totally. Completely agree with it all.
I mean, yeah, I really like, Jameson Crowder, and we were laughing because of the fact that it seems like every week we talk about professional receivers, pros.
Right, I was laughing too. Yeah. When you said that,
I knew that was why you were laughing, Coop.
But he's like the consummate example of that, where it's like you have all these rookies making mistakes. Like he's a seasoned guy that he's not going to screw up. He knows all the roles, right? He can play. He probably knows Corey Davis' job just as well as Corey Davis does. You know what I mean? Like he's been with this organization for so long. He knows all the roles. He's teaching everyone else the jobs. So he knows. Yeah. And that's important.
He's a calming presence for the Jets with a lot of volatility and turmoil with injuries, with the rookie quarterback having to basically learn on the fly. I mean, literally, Jameson Crowder, his first game back, the dude had 4 red zone targets. It's clear that Zach Wilson wants to do 2 things: target Corey Davis and target the slot. He targeted the slot with Braxton Berrios, for those couple weeks, and now Jameson Crowder's in there, and it almost doesn't even matter who is in the slot, because you're going to get targeted. So as long as Crowder is in that role in the slot, I'm all in on him as just a steady wide receiver 3 in fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Gary, we talked about Henry Ruggs. I don't know if you have any thoughts on him, or we talked about Josh Gordon as well.
Yeah, I was listening as my computer was restarting. And I mean, with Ruggs, I agree that Bryan Edwards is on the downslope. Darren Waller is Darren Waller. Hunter Renfro to me is that for sure that number 2 target. So Henry Ruggs, I don't know. I just feel like he's the number 3 target. No matter what, you're putting him in and you're hoping that he doesn't get overthrown on that touchdown. And that's 2 weeks in a row that we saw that Carr overthrew him, which is crazy because Carr is a strong arm. He just feels like a DFS kind of guy that I want to put him in, but as in a weekly, it's kind of tough for me. But that's also because I'm super high on Hunter Renfro. Like I just said how much I like Jameson Crowder, and I feel like Hunter Renfro is this like super young version of that. Like he is just your Julian Edelman type. When the Patriots had a true number 1 and then Julian was their second. Like it's hard for me to trust wide receiver 3s like that, but you have fully, because I've heard you talk about him over several weeks now, and I've fully started to appreciate way more of what Henry Ruggs is, that he's not just a burner. He is somebody that's getting targets all over the field.
Yep. And what about Josh Gordon? Any thoughts?
I'm just excited to see it. The number one thing in my mind is who's that number 3 target. As much as I just like played down on a number 3 target for Derek Carr, now I'm going to say I want that number 3 target for the Chiefs. The position is ripe for the picking, and I think that's the logic. Anybody that's looking at Josh Gordon and saying he was X, Y, and Z before, and now look at how old he is, I don't care about that because no one's stepping into that role so far. Find that consistent person, and all of a sudden, I mean, we've seen Sammy Watkins have like consecutive games in the previous seasons with Mahomes going for him, especially in the playoffs. Josh Gordon may end up being a better NFL asset than fantasy, but he is worth seeing what happens, because we know that if Tyreek tweaks his ankle, then there's a position right there open. And we saw what Gordon could do with Brady, and it was solid. I mean, he was a solid wide receiver too.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, we saw him too with Russell Wilson. I mean, he clearly likes, these stud quarterbacks too. So
he's Brandon Cooks.
Yeah. He's Brandon Cooks without any production the last like 8 years. That's okay. It's worth kicking the tires on.
Justin.
So talk about a bust. Sorry, Linda. So let's talk about one player that we are nervous about in week 5. Coop, I'll let you lead this off here.
Yeah, so this is one that I'm nervous about more. Part of it is just for week 5, and part of it is in general, and it has nothing to do with what he's done so far. So, like, George Kittle is the player that I'm nervous about for that. I know, Gary, I know.
It's okay.
But I'm not worried about what he's done so far, because he's played, like, the first game was a wash. It was a blowout, 41-17 before all the weird stuff happened. He was just, blocking, doing his thing. The game was over. Besides that, he's played well. What I'm nervous about are 2 things. First, for this week, I'm nervous about the Cardinals, because the Cardinals are a very good team against the tight end. I'm starting George Kittle wherever I have him, but I'm not playing him in DFS or anything like that, because Isaiah Simmons has proven to kind of be a problem for tight ends. They had Devondre Campbell last year, brought him as a hired gun tight end guy, and they felt comfortable enough to let him go, kept Isaiah Simmons, and the Cardinals have kind of been problematic for tight ends so far. So something to think about there. But the bigger thing that makes me nervous is Trey Lance, because we think Trey Lance is going to be good. And you look at some certain situations like Justin Fields or like Russell Wilson. Like, these guys, they like to scramble around. They like to find the big play. They don't like to dump it down to the shorter options, right? So Kittle is a guy that does He does get down the seam. He does get open. And he's a faster player, so there will be plays for him like that. But these guys that extend the play, they're usually not looking for the close option or the short option. So for me, even if Trey Lance is awesome, I'm a little worried. If he's terrible, I'm super worried. And we really haven't seen him. We don't really know. So just this week in particular, you got a very good defense versus the tight end. You have a rookie quarterback, and it's kind of scary. So that's the thing I'm most nervous about for week 5 for sure.
Yeah, I picked up Arizona's defense just as a little bit of a hedge in case, Trey Lance, gets that full game, and we've seen that defense show up in spots. Arizona, I can't stop talking about them because right now they've probably looked like the best complete team in football, honestly. Trey Lance, it's
Chandler Jones. Why can't we get guys like that, right?
Right. Cuse guy, Chandler Jones, by the way.
I didn't know
that's
that.
Right. Yeah. As far as Trey Lance, I was liking, with this role extension for Debo, where he's not just a 1A kind of receiver. He's getting deep, and he got a busted play last week and then got another touchdown, but that's only going to help him, just get unlocked. They're on the same page. I don't know if you guys heard Debo Samuel mic'd up for week 4, but go watch. NFL.com put that out. It was awesome.
I'll go check it out now. Catch you guys later.
Oh my God. Wow.
No.
Listen to this guy. Good, dude.
That's all our everyone watching the stream. They're like, yeah, I'll go watch that instead. Please.
No, okay, don't go watch that. Go watch it after this. I was trying to get to that. But as far as Trey Lance, it's gonna be a tough sledding, I think, with Arizona. But if he can pull that out, and get that offense going, maybe they get a little bit going on the run. It's tough we don't know about Elijah Mitchell, Trey Sermon, Kyle Juszczyk, guys like that. If they can get just at least something on the ground to be able to make defenses honest, that it's a feather in his cap. But I'm hedging with the Arizona defense.
I think he's going to hyper target Debo. So I totally.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, hopefully it was just jitters, but I mean, the trade that we saw was pretty similar to the trade we saw in preseason, and so far the Niners beat writers are they're poo-pooing all over the place, and they should all be looking for new jobs.
Yeah, but they're always wrong anyway. I mean,
camp that they anyway. So I see it. I completely see it. But if you got him, it's really hard to not start him. I mean, there's only one guy that I could think of that you could maybe just picked up off the waivers, and that's Dalton Schultz. And we'll be tangentially talking about him in a second.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Schultz, dude, or are we going to be talking about Schultz soon? The problem that I have with Schultz is that, like, maybe you start him this week, but what do you do next week? You start him against the Patriots, who the best defense versus the tight end.
Patriots team was sick the other night against the Bucs. Man,
and
good.
They were top 5. They were top 5. They've been top 5 versus the tight end this year. 0 catches for Gesicki, 0 catches for either Saints tight end. Last year they were top 5 versus the tight end, and they played Kelsey, Waller, Kittle. They played Hunter Henry. They played Gesicki twice. Like, this defense is killer versus tight end, right? So Dalton Schultz, like, if you added Dalton Schultz, cool. He has a good matchup this week. Giants, which is a good matchup, right? So Giants is a good matchup this week, but next week you have the Patriots. The week after that, he doesn't have a football game. They have a bye week, so it's like hard to be excited about Dalton Schultz. Like, you gotta be mixing and matching.
So, if I may, can I jump into the guy that I'm nervous about this week, because it continues from here? So it's CeeDee Lamb. Like, I just don't really know what to do with CeeDee right now. Hopefully you didn't get him in the second. You got him at least in the third. But I'm just like, I think that all of us probably have CeeDee on a team, and like in my big money league, I have him. And I went, oh God, I got out of the draft and felt like I just crushed it. I had CeeDee and I had Allen Robinson and Higgins. And it was just like, oh gosh, like this did not work out so far. I think the difficulty is we forget just how many pass catching options they have. We just talked about Dalton. This is without Michael Gallup. I mean, he is on IR, and yet it's still like Amari Cooper is doing his thing. I almost had Amari in here, but because he's getting the touchdowns, he's saving himself. And yet CD is not who we would have expected. I mean, the first 2 weeks, he had 15 targets, which is crazy, and then 9 targets, but then it's been 3 and 5. And what do you do against that in a game against the Panthers? They weren't out of that at any given point. Like, they threw for 40 times, and yet he only got 5 targets, and it ended up being this Dalton Schultz game. Like, Jarwin got his, and then just everybody got in the mix. Plus, they have some pass catching options at running back. This is not a bail on CD because I don't know if you can even sell him low. This is just, I'm nervous. Like, I have to start him. He feels like what Allen Robinson was going into last week. I have to start him. Allen Robinson, I'm officially ready he is part of my start-sit decisions. And I think that if CD doesn't do anything this week, he is into my start-sit decisions. I'm not benching him, but he's part of the decision-making. And we would never have thought that. I thought Dak was going to be the QB1 overall in the season. And so far, it's not looking like that. And that's because the running game is so good right now. That offensive line is just crushing.
Yeah. See, here's the thing about Dallas. We haven't seen them in positive game scripts. And now the last 2 weeks they've thrown combined 48 times.
Yeah.
So it's invariably going to affect, the bottom line on all of these receivers. Certainly Amari, who got banged up last week with a hamstring. And then obviously Dallas now, they're running the ball and they're running it effectively, but I don't think you have to worry. I think the matchup with Carolina is good because that should be neutral game script. It should be back and forth. Dak Prescott should be able to throw in that game. I have no worries about CeeDee Lamb. I think they have to work in more passing when they are in positive game scripts, because it seems like, and trust me, I've seen this with Green Bay when Mike McCarthy was there. When he gets a lead, Mike McCarthy is ultra conservative. All he does is run the ball, salt clock away. He does not take chances. Now, luckily for Green Bay, a lot of the times in the early 2010s, they had all those dudes that could get out to leads. And the main criticism of Mike McCarthy was, yeah, you have a 24-point lead, but they only won by 8 or 9 because you basically just played prevent from like the middle of the third quarter on and let these teams back into the game. So could that be the issue? It could be like McCarthy, but I'm not super worried about, when the Cowboys have these games like against Carolina, they just got Stephon Gilmore today. They're going for it. They are absolutely going for it. So, I'm not worried about CeeDee Lamb. The talent is still there. I think he's still a wide receiver too. It's just we have to kind of temper expectations that Dak Prescott was never going to be the guy to throw 700 times. When they have everybody healthy, when they're able to get out in front in games.
Yeah, he was never going to be that guy with this defense. This is the defense we didn't see coming. That's the biggest thing. I said some stats earlier and I said the numbers wrong. So my complete apologies. I was looking at the completely wrong page. So yeah, to me, the defense is what's causing that drop, that downtick. What did we talk about? We said he might get to throw 800 times.
Right. And the other part, because that's what they did. He did at the beginning of last year. But the other part of it is I think that Dak has looked better as a passer. And you see it with, just in general, good quarterbacks, that's what happens. Like you would see it with Peyton Manning back in like the Colts days. You see it with Tom Brady all the time. Like Tom Brady's whole career was he would just throw it to the easiest person to get the ball to on any given play. And you see it now, you're seeing it with Kyler Murray, which Kyler Murray is becoming that good passer. And he's like, you know what, if no one's going to cover Max Williams, I'll just give it to Max Williams. Max Williams has, 15 catches on 16 passes, 0 in man-to-man. Like no one's covering him. So when they don't cover him and he recognizes that, that's how it goes. And that's how it's going to go with Dalton Schultz. Like if everyone wants to key on CD, they want to key on Amari, a good quarterback just finds that dude that's not being covered, So
Yeah.
I think eventually people are going to have to respect Dalton Schultz. Things will even out a bit. Amari will have his games, CD will have his games, but that's why we talk about highly consolidated target share. The Seahawks, the Vikings, where what you're getting. That was the risk always with this offense or any of these offenses have many options. So
Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
And while we're there, let's speaking of consolidated offense, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks. Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty worried about not just DK Metcalf, but Tyler Lockett as well. Last week, I mean, in a positive game script, they only threw the ball 23 times. Like right now, Shane Waldron, I almost want Brian Schottenheimer back with the way, I mean, they were talking up about Shane Waldron coming in from Los Angeles as the passing game coordinator with the Rams. But right now he's looking like the puppet of Pete Carroll because right now they are 32nd in plays per game in the NFL, dead last. They're dead last in time of possession. They're 30th in use of 11 personnel. They're 29th. This is all per Dwayne McFarland, by the way. 29th in shift and motion pre-play. Right now, all this talk about Shane Waldron installing a more modern competitive offense, while, it's fine because, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf have been fine, but to have the efficiency that we've known the Seattle Seahawks to, basically be a hallmark of how they produce, you have to be able to throw the ball. And if they're not going to be able to throw the ball, if they're throwing the ball 25 times a game, you have to be absolutely worried about any kind of upside from either of these two wide receivers. Lockett that you grabbed in the middle of the third, DK Metcalf that you grabbed at the end of the second into the third.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is that even in these super competitive games, they're not throwing a ton. I mean, Russell Wilson, he's never thrown over, 500. I think it was 580 was the number that I saw before, something close to that, which isn't that much. I mean, most guys throw over 600, but even then, you would expect them to in these, the other day was like a 33-30 game or something like that. You'd expect to be throwing 40, maybe even 50 times. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger threw 58 times the other day. A team just 2 days ago ran 100 snaps, 100. So it's crazy that the offense can move that slowly in a game where there's 70 points being scored. So I do see the concern there. But to me, the good side for fantasy is that, I mean, the offense is just so consolidated. They don't even have that many wide receivers on the roster. It's Freddie. There were four of them really to start the year. It was Lockett,
Eskridge, and
Eskridge is hurt. So I mean,
right.
So it's they really are down to three. So I mean, for me, I'm starting Metcalf and Lockett wherever I have them, just because of the consolidation. I trust that if someone's going to get the ball, it's going to be these guys. It's so hard to trust half these offenses. So for me, I'm still sticking with them. It's concerning, of course, but I don't have in my real leagues that are competitive leagues, wherever I drafted DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, I just don't have the options to put those guys on the bench,
I don't even have anything to add. I completely agree with all of it. So it's tough. I'm nervous about it. Yeah. But I don't know how you sit them.
And you say,
I mean, I'm not advocating that you go ahead and sit these guys. Definitely not. You drafted them. They're still producing. It's just if this is going to be how the offense is, then there's cause for. I mean, I said it, Coop said it. There's cause for concern. Right. I mean, they're probably at that rate, just based on the offense and not having the opportunity, they're probably not going to be able to pay off at the ADP that you drafted them with.
Right. And it was the same thing with mine. I said George Kittle, but George Kittle, the only leagues I'm benching him in is the league if you don't have to start a tight end, or if it's a dynasty league where you have multiple tight ends. I have a league where I have Mark Andrews and George Kittle because I'm amazing at picking tight ends. So I might start Mark Andrews and not start George Kittle, but it has to be a crazy situation like that,
Yep. Yeah. So let's get out of the negative. Let's talk about just something that we want to get some more information. To quote the Big Lebowski, new information has come to light. Hopefully, I by the way, I am going to upload
We
that.
got to
clip
add
on
that
YouTube.
video. That's a good one.
I will. Absolutely. I had to go back and watch it, by the way. I'm
That
like,
clip,
oh my God. I haven't seen that movie in like at least a decade.
Oh, you watched the whole movie?
No. I saw that. I went to see if there's a clip on YouTube
clip of it,
that I could just grab and put on here.
I might just watch that movie because that movie has such good quotes. We might be able to pull a couple out of that. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, if someone just market 0, like someone just puts up a goose egg.
Market 8, dude.
Yeah, so if we questions, things that we want to get some more information on leaning into week 5 that are maybe ambiguous or that haven't quite fleshed out yet. So Gary, what about you?
I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with the James White role in New England. So James White went out with a season-ending injury. Was it the sublation? Was it the same thing that happened to Fitzpatrick? Yeah, the hip.
Yep.
And we saw Brandon Bolden come in that week, and he ended up playing, I think, almost half the snaps. And then this past week, we thought it was going to be JJ Taylor that could be stepping in, but it turned out to be Brandon Bolden. I mean, JJ ended up fumbling, so that didn't help at all. And then Brandon Bolden ended up, almost picking up for his stat line, like just like James White, like 6 targets, 6 receptions, 51 yards. In any sort of PPR league, like that's awesome. Like that is flexible. That's great. And then every once in a while, you might be able to get him to get some touchdowns. If I remember correctly, it was 2 years ago where there was that stretch where Brandon Bolden was just like a touchdown machine. So the other part of this is Mac Jones and Mac Jones yards per attempt. I mean, it's pretty much under 6 yards, maybe just over 6 yards, I guess, per attempt. So we know that he's going to be dumping it off. They're going to be doing a lot of short passing. I think that that's just going to be the Patriots' MO. They're going to try and control the clock. They're going to use the passing game as an extension of their run game. And, we'll see what Damian Harris can do in terms of getting that running game going. This week's kind of weird because they go against the Texans, so they should be able to run on them. But Brandon Bolden is somebody that I think has upside. However, I still want to see, does Ramondre Stevenson get any run if they do move on from JJ and then it's just Damian and Brandon? But ultimately, there were a lot of jokes. I think I remember seeing the tweet, and I apologize if it was one of you. I don't think it was. If you're picking up Brandon Bolden right now, you're doing fantasy football wrong. That was prior to the week. And now it's like, no, you just potentially picked up James White light, and I'm happy to take that on my roster in a pinch. Bye weeks are coming, injuries, happy to start that. So excited to see if that continues or if that backfield distribution shifts.
Bro, I'm fully on board with this. And the guys always especially Kevin JB always dog me for mentioning the name of the system, the
Hufflepuff Gryffindor system.
The modified Erhardt-Perkins system that the Patriots run. It's been a split backfield for 20 years now, going back to Kevin Falk. Kevin Falk and Corey Dillon. Like no guy has gotten more than 35 receptions and 200 carries. But I mean, what's relevant to us now is this: James White week 1 got 6 targets. James White week 2 got 6 targets. James White and Brandon Bolden combined in week 3 for 5 targets. And then in week 4, Brandon Bolden got 6 targets. I mean, Ding, ding, ding. Gary, I think you might have hit it on the head there. Like 6 targets for anybody. I don't care who you are. If you're a wide receiver, 6 targets, I'll take that. If you're catching, he got 6 of 6. And these are easily catchable targets. So it's like, I'll take it. Absolutely. AJ Green has touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. He's playing like a 95% snap share.
He's the formerly dusty
6 targets every
AJ
week
Green.
so far.
He stiff-armed the hell out of the Vikings dusty cornerback there. I forget who it was.
They all are.
Rashad Breeland. But Rashad Breeland's not even that small of a dude. He's like 200 pounds. And AJ Green put him in the dirt. Go back and watch that screen 2 weeks ago, dude. Just he was like, smell you later, son.
New information has come to light.
So for real though, like if Brandon Bolden, dude, this is a special teams player. If anyone asked me about him before, I would be the one being like, dude, we're talking about the guy that like, how many points for tackles on punt in your team? You know what I mean? But like, Hey, 6 targets. So
and it's free.
Free 99. So I'm down. The only threat to him, because it is a 2-back system, so it's like Damian Harris is on one side, Ramondre Stevenson is behind him, Brandon Bolden is now on one side, and JJ Taylor is behind him. JJ Taylor did him the big favor of coming out and having a absolutely brutal fumble.
Yeah.
So like I mean, for now it's Bolden, but JJ Taylor is the threat. If they split that role, a split half role is brutal. So but this week, if you have Damian Harris, you start him in every league because it's the Texans.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Brandon Bolden. Yeah, he is a cure for what if you had James White. It's such an easy pivot to get over to Brandon Bolden, and I picked him up in a ton of leagues just because. I mean, I need running back options. Let's face it. So, I mean, anytime he gets 6 targets, and they're going to be short targets because Mac Jones, that ADOT is not great, but he's going to catch 5 out of those 6 targets virtually every time. So, I mean, we can't go wrong with 5 points, and then whatever the hell he gets off of yards, and then maybe he gets one of those little swing passes in the end zone. There you go. You're pretty much a lock-in top 24 running back then on the week. So, Brandon Bolden, I'm totally in on, and JJ Taylor, screwed up his chance to at least put himself and get some distance on those guys. So
which sucks because I'm a Patriots fan. My dad loves JJ Taylor. He's the JJ Taylor bandwagon fan. So I'm always rooting for JJ Taylor, but I mean he's not doing it so far. So what are you gonna do?
It is what it is. I will go into my the question that I have, and it actually involves something that's we talk about these backfields and whether you want to call him a running back or don't want to call him a running back, or if you want to call him a gimmick running back, you're dead wrong. Cordero Patterson, and not just him, but the entire Atlanta Falcons backfield. We know Mike Davis is he struggled, but he did salvage his day with a touchdown in week 4. He got all 3 of his team's green zone touches as well. But Cordero Patterson, I think he is independent of that backfield as far as getting work. I mean, what he's doing right now, and let's not pretend that it's completely unsustainable as far as what he's doing on so many on the little touches that he's got. He doesn't even have 100 snaps, but he has 45 touches on those. Like, that is wildly unsustainable. Let's not pretend like he's going to be doing this all year, because he's not. But he's going to have a role regardless, of regression. So clearly he has earned it. And let's also not forget too, Wayne Gallman was active in his first game, and he got high leverage carries in the fourth quarter of that game. So that could be maybe planting the seed a little bit for scaling back Mike Davis. So I want to know how that's going to shape out next week or this week. I mean, with Wayne Gallman's role versus Mike Davis. I don't think that's going to eat away at Cordell Patterson. I think right now he has worked his way into that offense, and he is ingrained there to where he's pretty insulated. But it's really Mike Davis versus Wayne Gallman right now. And I think Wayne Gallman is the better running back all around versus Mike Davis, where we were drafting Mike Davis. I mean, I should say I didn't draft him, but it's, I know a couple people who did. I'm not going to say, Jared Berry, drafted him once or twice, I think, but, no, I think it's a tough situation because you drafted Mike Davis in the 5th round, thinking he was all right to get 250 to 275 touches in that offense with nothing else behind him. But now, here comes Cordell Patterson, 0 RB hero. Here comes Wayne Gallman, on the backstretch here. And there's a possibility he could catch up to him, in the next few weeks here.
Yeah, it's like, like in like New York for a while, they were like just like sending their trash out to like an island, like just hoping that no one would think about it. Like, that's basically what we're doing with this football game, sending it to London, right? Like, they were sending the Falcons and the Jets.
It was an act of war is what it was.
They can keep them, dude. Just keep them. But I mean,
we're going to be marching with muskets pretty soon, guys.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm an only child, so I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, to be honest, the Patterson thing it kind of falls in line with like the Max Williams and the like Tunyon talk I was saying before, where like teams are just not respecting Cordell Patterson. Like, he's playing running back, so they treat him like a running back, and then he moves out to wide receiver, and they send the linebacker out to cover him, And
Good luck.
And all of a sudden, it's like, wait a second. He's like, Coach, this is not actually the running back. This is Cordell Patterson. You know what I mean? So, the greatest kick returner of all time, besides Gale Sayers. But I mean, for me, I just don't know if there's just enough, like you said, enough juice for him to be consistent. You know, because he's really not getting the snaps. Mike Davis played 51. Patterson played 20 something. Right? Like. It's tough, but I don't know. I mean, he's always been explosive. It's just finally somebody's using him in the type of space he needs to be used in, but I don't feel good about it. Like people keep sending me trades that are like Cordell Patterson straight up for Jalen Hurts. I'm like, yeah, take Jalen Hurts. He's like quarterback 3 right now, isn't he? Like, you know, like, so I don't know. What do you think, Gary? Are you sold on Cordell Patterson, or are you out? Because that's such a tough question. It really is.
He's currently my savior in one of my leagues as my RB2 that I was missing. That league I keep texting you guys about, he's my RB2 there. And that offense, sans this week, was super anemic. But who is Matt Ryan in 2021 without Cordell Patterson, right? Like, sweet. He had 4
Zach
touchdowns.
Wilson.
3 of them went to Cordell Patterson. Yeah, I mean, like,
no, he would have to throw deep to be Zach Wilson. He did last week.
I think this is
Ben
legit.
Roethlisberger.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think if you can trade him for one of these top-notch guys, sure. But we see somebody every year that pops off, and they're just kind of a one-hit wonder. Every year there is a one-hit wonder. For some reason, every time I talk one-hit wonder, I think of Peyton Hillis.
Until James Robinson was RB7. That's the thing.
Peyton Hillis is a good one.
But there's just always somebody that does something, and it makes sense. You had a vacuum. Russell Gage has been injured. The next guy up was Zacchaeus, and we had journeyman 28-year-old Mike Davis. We got Wayne Gallman, as you guys talked about, like coming off of literally being signed after being cut. Everything makes sense that like you lock onto a safety outlet and you just go from there. And it's not as if Pitts and Ridley aren't getting targets. Like, they have a good target share, but it makes sense that you have a third option. And like, this week was an outlier, right? We know that, but even if you take out this week, I believe going into week 4, Cordell Patterson was running back 10 in a half-point leagues. And now he's, I think, number 2. So he's there. Like, I think you just keep going with it. Throw him in your RB2, fine. You got somebody else, hopefully, unless you're me, then whatever, you put him in your flex and just go with it. And if it doesn't work out, it's fine. But I don't see that Wayne Gallman is going to have the type of production that Cordell Patterson is going to have. As you said, he's a big body. He's very quick. I mean, you look at him and you're like, this guy is not a running back, because he's not. But to be honest, he doesn't really look like a wide receiver to me. He almost looks like a hybrid tight end. He's just a big old dude. He's muscular. So
he looks like a basketball player. Like if you took like a basketball player, like a Kawhi Leonard, and they were just like, go out there and play, and he just didn't really know anything particularly well, but he was just an awesome athlete. Like, that's kind of what he looks like out there, you know? Probably
like if Antonio Gates ever played basketball, it'd probably be like that.
Yeah, or Jimmy Graham, guys like that. Yeah.
Wait, those guys play basketball?
I'm here. Like,
I've heard things.
Let me get to mine, because we're running up against the half-hour mark here. So mine's pretty easy. DJ Chark absolutely shattered his ankle. It sucks. He's gonna be done for the year. So you got this offense. Forget the turmoil with the Jaguars coaching and all that. That's been talked to pieces.
It's been grinded.
Yeah, James Robinson is playing pretty much every snap at running back, right? Grinded, very nice, Gary. James Robinson's the running back, right? So we're in the pass catchers is the question. So you have Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, and to me, this team probably, because they're garbage, can only support 2 pass catchers at most, maybe just 1, right? So you have Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, and to me, Dan Arnold becomes interesting in that the first game of the season, they had James O'Shaughnessy basically being used like Travis Kelce, right?
Yep.
Like for wide receiver snaps, it was Hawkinson ran the most, Kelsey was second, Pitts was third, and then tied for fourth with 32 wide receiver snaps was Logan Thomas and James O'Shaughnessy. So he got hurt right in the beginning of the second game. Luke Farrell comes in, runs 22 routes. The very next game, they just use Jacob Hollister like that, and then they immediately trade for this guy, and he comes in and he plays only only 14 plays, 12 are pass snaps, 10 at wide receiver. So and we're talking about a coach who back in 2009 used Aaron Hernandez. He led the team in receptions for the Gators, led the team in receptions. He was second in yards. I forget who the wide receiver was, but he was he was the racist. He said the racist stuff for the Eagles.
Riley Cooper.
Riley Cooper, my own last name. Riley Cooper was
not your cousin.
Sorry, it's 10:30.
From Boston.
I forgot all football. From Boston. Yeah, definitely not from Boston. Well, I mean, anyway, but anyway, he's had an offense that used a tight end in college very successfully. Now he wants to use a tight end that way. The scary thing is he probably wanted to use Tim Tebow that way. And now they lose their biggest wide receiver. So, I mean, it's up in the air as to who are going to be the top two targets on the team. Dan Arnold could be that dark horse guy that comes out of nowhere, just gets a ton of targets and saves your fantasy team. So, I mean, kind of interesting stash for me, Arnold. What do you guys think? I mean, all out of the three of them, who would you prioritize?
Out of the three of the tight ends?
No, Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, and Dan Arnold. Is the tight end eligibility that, because you probably imagine one of those guys is going to be the lead target, but
I mean, I think you go shiny toy Visca, you go Marvin Jones, Steady Eddie, and then you go Dan Arnold. But I just think it's weird that they traded for Dan Arnold when they already had Jacob Hollister, which I don't care what anyone says. He put up numbers.
He gave you that Scott Fishbowl title is what he did.
I didn't want to say it, but he did. Fuck yes, he did. You already swore, so I can.
That's right. Once the seal is broken, you just go.
We're already fucking.
Don't talk about that. I have to pee so badly right now.
Well, let's wrap it.
I do like Dan Arnold. I think the problem is he was owned in a lot of places where the caliber of Dan Arnold you're looking for was already on roster. I would have Dalton Schultz above Dan Arnold.
This is not the Dan Arnold you're looking for.
I mean, I just don't.
Meyer reference.
That's
Men in Black.
That's Star Wars. These are not the droid. These are not the droids you're looking for.
I thought that was like the memory eraser thing from Men in Black. That's what I thought you were Black. Yeah.
Second time I made an Urban Meyer reference, and it just went way past.
Yeah, he's not going to talk about anything with that. I just can't see a world where Marvin Jones is not just peppered with targets. And trust me, you're talking to the guy who was honking the Laviska Shenault train, for most of the offseason. He's just got to get deep target. If he's going to do anything in fantasy, he has to be able to get out of that short 8-out role. I mean, that's a coaching thing. That's a utilization thing. Is he has to be able to expand his role. He can't do that just in the role he's at, where he's essentially a gadget guy in that offense. I mean, he had a 50-yard catch, on last week that was really nice. He turned into the ball, and I believe it was a 52-yard catch. But is that going to be a regular thing? Who's to say? But that's what he's got to be able to do. He's got to be able to get the deep targets. He's got to be able to get something intermediate. The dude is a beast. Good luck tackling him. I don't see why you don't at least use him intermediate and then just let him rumble through smaller guys in the secondary. If you have him short, you have to go through probably a defensive end, probably one or two linebackers to get. I mean, you're not even giving him a shot to be able to make plays on these guys. Get him intermediate, give him some 15-yard ins or something like that, and then let him compete with guys bigger than him and then get downfield.
It's going to be so weird after whatever their bye week is, and Darrell Bevel is going to be their coach and not just their OC, who's probably being not given any responsibilities, and we get to see what this offense really looks like.
Well, we'll see what this offense really has to do when Joe Brady's the head coach.
When Darrell Bevel's the head coach, then that's when they just run the ball like 70 times a game.
Then they're moving to London.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Like Shad Khan has always wanted.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, we can get out of here now. We we had a good talk here, Gary. I'm glad we got you back into the fold here after whatever microphone snafu 2K21. Yeah, pretty much. But we will be back on Sunday here on the channel with Calm Before the Storm, myself, Gary, and Britt Flynn. Good luck in your week 5, and we will see you with the next strategy session for week 6. Have a great night, everybody.